Now, I mentioned that I watched the Impact Slammiversary show last night. First time in front of live fans in nearly 500 days. Thank God, because those shows in the empty Impact Zone before they started piping in noise were unwatchable. I would tune in occasionally and it would just be an empty room with not even background noise. And I couldn't even watch it. But I knew Kenny Omega was defending the Impact World title against Sami Callihan, and I thought there was a good chance that we might actually see a title change, so I said, what the hell? Let's watch this show. So this is less of a review and more just some quick observations I thought I would go through here based on what I saw last night. This was the first time that I've seen an Ultimate X match in many years. I don't know how many of them they still do, if they do them annually or not. Obviously, they used to be a really big deal in the old TNA days. I haven't seen one of these, though, in a very long time. There were some pretty creative spots that I haven't seen before. Josh Alexander, he is the X Division champion. He retained his title. I guess Hawkins and Ryder, they've been feuding for months in Impact. Or Brian Myers and Matt Cardona, I guess I should say. So Myers brought out Tenille Dashwood as his partner, Emma, who used to date Cardona. And Cardona brought out his real-life fiancée, Chelsea Green, as his mystery partner, making her Impact Wrestling return. No more Laurel Van Ness, although she was sort of acting like Laurel Van Ness, but she's going by Chelsea Green now. I mean, she may as well. Everybody knows her under that name. It was the likeliest landing spot for her, with Cardona working there, and also given her history there. She got the biggest push of her career. She made a name for herself, working for Impact, doing that hot mess character, so really Impact was probably the best fit for her. I thought it was nice to see Big Cass getting a second chance. He's going by the name W. Morrissey, right? Is it for William Morrissey? And he's getting a second chance, big singles push right now in Impact. He had hit rock bottom in his life. And if you've never seen the interview he did with Chris Van Vliet, you should watch it. It's a pretty rough story, but he was very candid about the things that he had gone through battling addiction at the end of his WWE run, post-WWE. But he also, I have to say, has the worst case of back knee that I have seen since Gene Snitsky. Holy shit, dude. I know he's in great shape and all, but whatever you're doing, dial it back a little bit. Because in HD, that stuff is just popping out at you. You can't not notice it. Moose. Gotta talk about Moose. Moose had a match against Chris Sabin. This match made me scratch my head so much, I think I drew blood. Chris Sabin is a very good wrestler. And let's just get that out of the way first. No one is denying the fact that Chris Sabin is not talented. And I admit, I have not been following the story between these two week to week. But the last time I watched Impact this closely, earlier this year, Moose was on fire. That was when he replaced Alex Shelley in the six-man tag at their Hard to Kill pay-per-view against Omega and the Good Brothers. The man was doing fucking Spanish flies off the top rope, and things a man of his size should not be able to do. It felt like he was on the verge of being their next big breakout babyface. And I thought they could have Omega drop the title to Moose when the time was right. And then, of course, they did the match with Moose and Omega at Daly's place, and he lost. But it wasn't the right time for him to win anyway. And Moose re-signed with Impact last month, I think, after teasing that he might leave and go to WWE. And he even admitted after the fact he had interest from WWE, but he decided to stay with Impact. Now I tune in and I see Moose, who felt like one of the hottest things in the company a few months ago, losing to Chris Sabin. To a roll-up. A victory roll-up. That's what I'm going to call it. It was a victory roll, but I'll call it a victory roll-up. It's like, what the hell happened? Since I last saw that version of Moose, what has happened? Why is he being rolled up by Chris Sabin? I thought that was very dumb. Very, very dumb. No Way Jose debuted in Impact. Now he's just No Way. Very original. Although when he was introduced, Falaba called him No Way Jose. So that might have been a little botch on his part. A little Falabotch. They were partners in a 4-way for the Impact Tag Team titles, which are now back around the waist of the Good Brothers. Thunder Rosa showed up as a surprise opponent for Deonna Purrazzo's Knockouts title. Purrazzo has plowed through the women's division, the Knockouts division, and is accepting outside challengers now, I guess. Gail Kim, I know, had promised her a surprise opponent at the pay-per-view. I thought that was setting it up for it to be Gail herself for one last match. So I did not see that surprise coming with Thunder Rosa being the one to come out, and they had a good match. Purrazzo won. They put over the Knockouts champion. Mickie James made her Impact Wrestling return after the match to invite Deonna to the all-women's NWA pay-per-view that Mickie is producing next month. And Purrazzo told her to get lost, take your trash bag with you. I like that little burn there. And James kicked her head off. So it looks like the NWA has a main event now for its pay-per-view. These are very strange times indeed, with Impact working with the NWA again, but this is a very different NWA than it was during the days of NWA TNA. You know, this is a Billy Corgan operation now. It's not the NWA as it traditionally was, and a very different Impact for that matter. Right? The leadership and the executive hierarchy in the company, a lot has changed since those days. But they also announced their Bound for Glory show this year will be taking place in October in Las Vegas with representation from AEW, New Japan, and AAA, which is very cool. The problem is their show can still barely crack 100,000 viewers each week. That's about all they can muster. And that's even with all of the crossover that they've been doing. I mean, it's like every time they get some buzz going or they pop what for them would be considered a big number, whether it's a television rating or a pay-per-view buy rate, it just dies right back down. This company can never get any sort of sustained momentum going for itself. I think it's great that these companies are working together. It's one of the things that seemed to have really ratcheted up during the pandemic era. It's going to be one of the positives when we look back coming out of this whole pandemic period, is hopefully an understanding amongst all these companies that, you know what, it's not such a terrible thing to work together. I mean, not that there weren't partnerships and alliances before, but it seems like now a lot of these companies are more open to working with each other more often. It just doesn't seem that Impact is getting the level of benefit out of it that they should in terms of increasing the viewership, which is still a problem for them. And Kenny Omega is still the Impact World Champion with a win over Sami Callihan. They had a hardcore style match with garbage and plunder, pizza cutters, barbed wire, thumbtacks. Omega continues his dominance. Impact should be grateful to have him coming in for these big matches and putting himself through this kind of abuse. Omega, the Good Brothers, and Callis, they're two sweeting each other in the ring after the match when all of a sudden the lights go out. And when they come back on, Jay White walks out with his never open weight title representing Bullet Club. He gets in the ring, they tease that he might put up the hand signal to join with them, and then all of a sudden somebody runs out from the back, but we can't see who it is because they immediately cut away and they end the pay-per-view. Which I have read was something that was not a mistake. It was done that way by design. It was done as a cliffhanger. And you know what? They need all the cliffhangers they can get to try to get people to tune into that TV show. So it's smart. I don't know that it's going to work, but it's smart. And apparently it was Juice Robinson and David Finlay who ran out. And Jay White dropped Juice with the Blade Runner and then he fled. He is scheduled to defend the Never Belt against Finlay next month at a New Japan show. So a nice tease of whether he is with Omega or not. It could be building to a match between the two at some point. If they can get their act together on the COVID front over there in Japan, because it is still, it's really bad. I mean, it's really bad over there right now. Travel still is not easy. There's still a lot of restrictions. if they can ever get past that and get their shit together, Kenny Omega will wrestle again in a Tokyo Dome main event. There is not a doubt in my mind. And I'm not saying that like he'll be under contract again one day to New Japan. Omega is going to wrestle again for New Japan. He is going to wrestle for New Japan. He is going to be in the Tokyo Dome, possibly in the main event. It is only a matter of when do they do it. Have things improved enough by the time, let's say, Wrestle Kingdom rolls around at the beginning of next year. That would be the place to do it. Now, as far as Jay White goes, it was too bad. My thought coming out of the show, I mean, Impact fans won't want to hear this, but my thought was it's too bad they didn't save that for an episode of Dynamite in front of a bigger crowd. I mean, Jay White comes out, and I know Jay White isn't the biggest wrestling star in the world, but to this audience, even to an AEW audience, to an Impact audience, they know who Jay White is. They would pop for him. Jay White, he walks out here, and it was like walking out at a VFW hall in front of 100 people. Him showing up on TNT, he would have gotten a superstar reaction. I mean, Kenta got a big reaction when they did the big reveal with him, and that was in Daly's place in front of, 1,000 people? So it's too bad they couldn't save this for, a bigger show, make this a bigger deal, but you know what? Now really would not be the ideal time to tease something like that on AEW television if the focus is really supposed to be on Hangman Page challenging Kenny for the title. So, timing-wise, I don't know that I would do that on Dynamite. So maybe I would have saved Jay White for a few months down the road. But anyway, that was my Slammiversary thoughts. The action I saw was very good. Obviously, I'm not following all of the different stories that are going on right now. With some of the undercard stuff in Impact. They have a lot of very talented people who work for the company. The pieces are there. It's just they can never really seem to put it together to generate enough momentum to just kind of boost them up. And the Moose thing, again, I was just laughing. I mean, I couldn't help but laugh at that. I mean, Moose being rolled up by Chris Sabin. I mean, it's just ridiculous. But anyway, that was Slammiversary last night.